There is a sound that has been following you your entire life. You have heard it in moments of silence. You have felt it in your chest during those strange seconds when the world goes quiet and something inside you seems to wake up. You were never told what it was. Your church never mentioned it. Your teachers skipped right over it. And that was not an accident. What if I told you this sound is not random? What if the reason you feel pulled towards something you cannot name, something bigger than yourself, is because something is literally calling you back? In the next 20 minutes, you are going to understand what that sound actually is, where it comes from, and why certain people hear it while others never will. More importantly, you will learn why this was deliberately erased from every Bible you have ever held. But first, I need to show you something that changes everything about what you think prayer is. It was digging into texts like these that made me realize why here at Awakened Minds we keep pulling at threads most people are afraid to touch. Because once you see this, you cannot unsee it. Now, let me take you back to where this lie started. For almost 2,000 years, Christianity has taught you that God is somewhere out there, up in the sky, separate from you, watching, judging, keeping score. That idea did not come from Jesus. It was cemented at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, when Roman Emperor Constantine needed a single, controllable religion to hold his crumbling empire together. The bishops who gathered there did not come to find truth. They came to build political consensus, and consensus meant cutting out anything that made the individual too powerful. Before Nicaea, early Christians had dozens of gospels, texts that spoke about a divine spark living inside each human being, texts that described a direct connection between you and the source of all creation. No priest required, no temple needed, no middleman collecting tithes. Those texts were not politely set aside, they were burned. Monks who preserved them were hunted. Entire libraries were destroyed. The message could not have been clearer. You do not get to talk to God directly. You go through us, or you do not go at all. But here is what does not add up. If the approved version of Christianity was the whole truth, why did they need to destroy the alternatives? If the canonical Gospels were sufficient, why track down and kill the people who read the other ones? Think about that. You do not burn books that contain lies, you burn books that contain truths you cannot control. A 2019 analysis from Princeton's Department of Religion examined the political motivations behind the Nicene canon and concluded that at least 14 texts were excluded not on theological grounds, but on institutional ones. They threatened the power structure. Period. That is not conspiracy talk. That is published academic research anyone can look up. When I found that out, something shifted in me. I realized I had spent decades inside a framework that was built from the very beginning to keep me from the one thing it claimed to offer, a real connection to the divine. And if that connection was real, then what was it? What did those erased Gospels actually describe? Here is where it gets extraordinary. Buried in the Nag Hammadi library, a collection of texts hidden in the Egyptian desert for over 1,600 years, there is a concept that the earliest Christians understood, but that modern churches will not go near. They called it the monad. The monad is not a god sitting on a throne. It is the original undivided source of everything that exists. The first emanation, pure consciousness before it split into the material world. In the secret book of John, one of the most complete Gnostic texts ever recovered, the monad is described as the invisible spirit, the one that exists above all, dwelling in pure light that no eye can look upon. The Gnostics called it the monad. Ancient Vedic traditions called it Brahman. Certain Kabbalistic texts refer to Ein Sof, the limitless. Some quantum physicists today talk about the unified field. Different languages, different centuries, different continents, same conclusion. I call it the original signal. Here is the core idea. Before anything was created, there was one unified frequency, one vibration, one sound, and everything that exists, including you, is an echo of that original pulse. You are not separate from it, you are made of it. And it has been trying to call you back since the day you were born. It sounds obvious when you hear it laid out, right? But think about how many years you spent being told the opposite. How many Sundays you sat in a pew being told you were broken, fallen, in need of saving by something outside yourself. All of that was the reversal of what the earliest followers of Jesus actually taught, and this is not something I made up. The Desert Fathers, the very first Christian monks back in the 3rd century, practiced a form of silent prayer designed to tune into what they called the still, small voice. The Gospel of Thomas, saying 77, records Jesus as saying, "Split a piece of wood, and I am there. Lift up a stone, and you will find me." That is not a God living in heaven. That is a presence woven into the fabric of reality itself. The physicist Erwin Schrödinger wrote about this in 1944. He argued that consciousness is not plural, that what appears as many minds is actually one mind expressing itself through many forms. And the HeartMath Institute published research in 2015 showing that the human heart generates an electromagnetic field extending several feet beyond the body, one that responds to emotional and spiritual states in measurable ways. Your body is already tuned to something. The question is whether anyone ever taught you to listen. I am going to prove this to you now, not with opinions, with history, with peer-reviewed science, with real cases, and with one source that will catch you completely off guard. Let us start with what the ancients knew. In Egypt, over 4,000 years ago, the priests of Heliopolis taught that creation began with a sound. They called it the word of Ptah. The entire cosmos, they said, was spoken into existence through vibration, and they were not alone. In India, the Upanishads describe Om as the primordial sound, the vibration from which all matter emerged. In the Hebrew tradition, Genesis opens with, "And God said." Not God thought, not God designed, God said. Sound preceded everything. 3 civilizations that never exchanged a single letter. 3 entirely separate traditions that reached an identical conclusion. The universe began as a sound, and that sound never stopped. Coincidence? Or did they all pick up on something the rest of us have been trained to ignore? History is one thing, but let me show you what the lab coats found. In 2012, researchers at the University of Cologne published a study on auditory entrainment, looking at how specific sound frequencies affect brainwave patterns. What they found was that certain tones, particularly around 40 Hz, triggered gamma wave synchronization across both brain hemispheres. That is the same brainwave state associated with flashes of insight, deep meditation, and what experienced meditators describe as oneness. A 2017 study at MIT backed this up, showing that 40 Hz stimulation improved neural coherence and communication between distant brain regions. And here is where it gets uncomfortable. Those frequencies match the tonal ranges found in Gregorian chanting, the very practice the early church adopted and then gradually pushed to the margins as liturgy became more about performance and attendance than actual experience. The monks were not just singing pretty songs, they were tuning their brains to a frequency that opens the door to states ordinary consciousness cannot reach. The studies are published, peer-reviewed, sitting in academic journals anyone can access, but you are not going to hear about this from your pastor on Sunday morning. Numbers tell one story, but nothing beats watching it play out in someone's actual life. Let me tell you about Margaret. She is 72 years old, a retired school teacher from North Carolina. Margaret spent her whole life in the Baptist church, faithful, devoted, never missed a Sunday. But she told me something I have now heard dozens of times. She always felt like something was missing, like she was going through the motions, saying the right words, but never quite connecting to anything real. 3 years ago, Margaret's daughter sent her a video from Awakened Minds about contemplative prayer rooted in the Desert Fathers. Margaret started sitting in silence for 20 minutes each morning. No words, no petitions, no requests, just listening. Within 6 weeks, she described something she called the hum, a low, steady vibration she felt in her chest during deep silence. She said it felt like being remembered. Her blood pressure dropped 14 points in that time. She stopped taking one of her 2 anxiety medications. Her doctor could not explain it, and Margaret is not a one-off case. I have gotten hundreds of messages just like hers. Retired nurses, engineers, veterans, grandparents, all describing the same thing. A sound or vibration they encounter in deep stillness that feels like coming home. Too many people reporting the same experience for it to be coincidence. But here is the part that really got me. The people you would least expect already knew about this. You know, the CIA spent 20 years and millions of dollars investigating this exact thing. The Gateway process, declassified in 2003, was a program designed to explore altered states of consciousness through sound-based techniques. The report, written by Army Lieutenant Colonel Wayne McDonnell, describes how specific audio frequencies can synchronize the brain's hemispheres and access what the document calls the Absolute. Read the description of the Absolute in that report, and you will find it sounds almost word for word like the way the Gnostics described the monad, an infinite, omnipresent energy field underneath all physical reality. The United States military studied this, wrote a classified report about it, used binaural beat frequencies to help intelligence analysts access expanded awareness, and then quietly filed the whole thing away. NASA uses sound-based protocols for astronaut mental preparation. The Monroe Institute, which developed the techniques the CIA relied on, has trained thousands of people in frequency-based meditation. The most powerful institutions on the planet already know that consciousness responds to sound. They just decided you did not need that information. Sit with that for a second. Look at what we have stacked up. Ancient civilizations on different continents taught that creation began with a sound. Modern neuroscience confirmed that specific frequencies push the brain into states of expanded awareness. Ordinary people are encountering this vibration in silence and reporting results that change their health and their lives. And the CIA spent 2 decades and classified money investigating the exact same thing, all of it pointing the same direction. So why is none of this taught in churches? Why is it missing from seminary training? Why has your pastor never once brought it up? The answer is not pleasant, but you deserve to hear it. To understand why this stays hidden, you need to follow the money and the power. Both trails lead to the same place. Who benefits from you believing that God is separate from you, that you are broken and need an institution to reach the divine? The organized church system generates an estimated $130 billion a year in the United States alone through tithes, donations, and product sales. Publishing houses move millions of devotionals, study Bibles, and prayer guides every single year. The whole infrastructure rests on one assumption: you cannot do this alone. You need their book, their building, their blessing. If you figured out that the connection was already inside you, built into your own biology, accessible through silence and sound, what exactly would you need them for? That is not a conspiracy theory. That is basic economics. And how do they keep you from figuring it out? First, they assembled a canon that excluded every text describing direct divine contact. Second, they trained clergy for centuries using material that only mentions the Gnostic tradition to condemn it. Third, they labeled anyone practicing contemplative silence as New Age or heretical, lumping in the oldest Christian prayer tradition with things people are taught to fear. 17 centuries of this. And it keeps working for as long as nobody asks the obvious questions. And who pays the price? You do. Spending years feeling spiritually hollow, praying words at a ceiling and wondering why nothing comes back. Going to church every Sunday with that nagging feeling there has to be more than this. Blaming yourself for not having enough faith when the problem was never your faith. You do not have a faith problem. You had an information problem. And now that is fixed. I know this kind of thing can bring up frustration. I felt the same way when the pieces first clicked. But being angry does not change anything by itself. Practice changes things. So let me give you exactly how to start hearing the original signal for yourself. No more theory. Here are 3 steps you can begin today. You do not need equipment, you do not need a guru, you need 20 minutes and the willingness to sit still. First, the listening sit. Find a quiet room, sit down, close your eyes and do absolutely nothing. Do not pray, do not repeat words, do not try to visualize anything. Just listen to whatever is already there. The hum of the room, your own heartbeat, the silence underneath the silence. Sit like this for 20 minutes. The point is not to achieve anything. The point is to stop performing spirituality and start receiving. Most people notice a subtle internal tone or vibration within the first 2 weeks. That is not tinnitus. That is your nervous system settling into a frequency it has been drowning out with noise your whole life. Start tonight. Second, add the 40 Hertz tone. After about a week of the listening sit, bring in a 40 Hertz binaural beat track. Free ones are all over YouTube. Use headphones. Play it softly while you sit. This is the same frequency range the Cologne researchers found triggers gamma wave synchronization. You are not doing anything mystical here. You are giving your brain the acoustic conditions it needs to synchronize in ways it cannot during normal waking hours. The medieval monks figured this out through chanting. You can get to the same brain state with a pair of headphones and 20 minutes of stillness. After 2 to 3 weeks of combining silence and tone, many people describe a shift. The silence deepens. Thought slows down. And that vibration Margaret talked about starts to become unmistakable. Third, and this is for those who want to go all the way, the monad return. This comes from techniques described in the Pistis Sophia and adapted from the Gateway process protocols. After your 40 Hertz session, when your mind has gone quiet, bring your attention to the center of your chest, not your physical heart muscle, the space behind your sternum. The Gnostic texts say this is where the divine spark lives. Hold your attention there. do not force anything. Some people feel warmth, others feel a kind of expansion. Some hear a tone that seems to come from inside rather than outside. This is what those texts meant by the sound that calls you back. It is not a metaphor, it is something you experience directly. Now, 2 common mistakes to watch for. The first, trying too hard. This is not about effort. If you are straining to hear or feel something, you are actually pushing the experience further away. Let it come to you. The second mistake, expecting a lightning bolt on day 1. This is a practice, not a magic trick. The signal has always been there. You are just learning to get quiet enough to notice what was playing all along. What can you expect? In the first 2 weeks, most people notice a new quality to the stillness, a sense that silence has texture and depth. After a month, the vibration becomes more consistent, more recognizable. After 3 months of daily practice, people describe a shift in how they experience everything, not just prayer, everything. A sense that you are not sitting inside the universe looking out, you are the universe looking at itself. That is not pretty language. That is what the Gnostics wrote down, what the physicists theorized, and what the CIA put in a classified document. Let me pull all of this together. You clicked on this video thinking prayer meant talking to a God somewhere far away. You found out that the oldest Christian texts say something completely different, that there is a direct, sound-based connection to the source of reality itself, and it is built right into your biology. You saw evidence from ancient civilizations, from neuroscience labs, from ordinary people like Margaret, and from classified military research. You learned why this was buried and who profits from keeping you disconnected. And now you have 3 concrete steps to start hearing the original signal yourself. In 20 minutes, you have come across something most people will go their entire lives never knowing. You are not the same person who clicked on this video. You now carry a piece of knowledge that puts you in a very small group. People who know what the monad is, and more importantly, how to answer when it calls. So what are you going to do with it? And look, we only scratched the surface here. There is much more about the specific frequencies encoded in the Pistis Sophia and the harmonic patterns mapped out in the gateway process that I could not fit into one video. If you want me to go deeper on that, tell me in the comments. Just write the word signal so I know you are ready for it. If what you heard today struck something in you, hit the like button. It tells the algorithm to push this out to other people who are looking for the same answers you were. And subscribe if you have not already. What comes next goes even further. Here is the one thing I want you to take with you. The sound was never lost. You were just taught to stop listening. See you in the next one.